All right, Jordan Schultz is joining us in studio. Let's start. You've got a lot of information on this stuff. What led to the Raiders? What a division of coaches now. What led to adding a little silver to the silver and black?
Yes.
73-year-old Pete Carroll.
To understand the Pete Carroll hire, you have to understand the history of both Tom Brady and Rob Spytek in Tampa Bay. Remember, when the Bucs won the Super Bowl, who did they coax out of retirement? A mid-60s Bruce Arians. Not dissimilar necessarily to Pete Carroll. High energy, connects to players, and they win the Super Bowl, and now you fast forward several years, and yes, Pete Carroll is old, but Pete Carroll's superpower is connecting and relating to players. And when you think about that division, Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, Sean Payton, Tom Brady, Rob Spytek, they realized they needed an adult in the room. Now, yes. Ben Johnson was the exception. They looked at Ben Johnson like he's a superstar, he's a #1 draft pick. But once that became really unrealistic, and I told you last week, I never really bought into Ben Johnson.
You told us that.
Going to the Raiders. I always thought the Bears was the #1 opportunity for him and that he wanted that job. When that became unrealistic, they moved to Pete Carroll and pursued him wholeheartedly. And I've talked to Michael Bennett, Marshawn Lynch, Richard Sherman, Bobby Wagner, and they all say that there is no coach quite like Pete Carroll in terms of the connectivity to players, establishing a culture, and I can't think of a franchise more in need of that than the Silver and Black.
Yeah, I think we both admit they needed an adult, and Pete Carroll is an adult.
Yes.
He was willing to go back to college for an elite job.
He's a coach. Coach is coach. That's what he wanted to do, and that's where we're at.
Okay, I want to talk about the Bears and Ben Johnson. My concern is he has no real relationship with Ryan Poles. I don't know if Ryan Poles is the guy. It's been a political organization. Just in this league, when the coach and the GM don't connect, Snyder and Pete Carroll late didn't really connect. The coach is usually in trouble. Ben has the power here in this dynamic. What do you make of that GM coach thing?
You mentioned Pete Carroll and Snyder. Pete wanted to stay in Seattle. He was pushed out.
Yeah.
It's really important to have alignment. And the Bears, you mentioned Ryan Poles. It was really Kevin Warren driving the bus, the president of the organization. But Ben Johnson is someone that can give you innovation. Ben Johnson is someone that's going to take his playbook and say, no. Caleb, I will adapt to you. A lot of coaches, especially ones who've had the early success, like a Ben Johnson, known as a guru, a wonderkind, they will go to a young quarterback and say, you listen to me. This is my playbook. You will learn everything I want you to learn. They'll have cohesion. And it's been made very clear to me that Ben Johnson is going to have the opportunity very early on to establish the type of trust with Caleb Williams, who, by the way, advocated publicly for Ben Johnson, and they will have the cohesiveness that he never had with a Shane Waldron, let alone a Matt Eberflus. That was a big part of the hire, and I think Chicago also sold Ben Johnson on, yes, this division is really tough, but nobody has ever been able to take the Bears to the promised land since Mike Ditka. Imagine what you can do for the city of Chicago in this region if you take the Bears to the promised land, and they believe he will.
Dallas Cowboys, not only are they going to settle probably for a second or third tier coach, but everybody's gobbling up the best coordinators and assistants. Where are they at?
Colin, if you're a really good established coordinator, do you want to go work for Brian Schottenheimer in Dallas? Why?
No.
Why? I mean, this is not disrespectful to Brian Schottenheimer. It's the reality. He's 51 years old. He's failed multiple places as an offensive coordinator, including Seattle. And now he appears to be in the lead in Dallas. Now, I'm not willing to say quite yet that he has the job. I know they really do like Kellen Moore. And Kellen Moore, obviously, they wouldn't be able to hire until Philly's out. But if Brian Schottenheimer is the guy, he is viewed around the league, and I'll tell you this quite totally honestly, he is viewed around the league as someone that will acquiesce to Jerry Jones. Now, Mike McCarthy, I believe, Jerry really believed, wanted to stay and that he would be able to retain him. Jerry got very behind in the process, did not proactively reach out to potential new coaches, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, reaching out to the Lions. He did not do that. He became way behind, and as a result, not only does he not get a top-tier head coach, but he has no plan of how to operate moving forward. The Cowboys have no plan, and this is what happens when you just wing it. And Jerry Jones, who's in his 80s, is operating right now as a lone wolf. A lot of times he's incorporated Steven. It's my understanding that Jerry Jones right now is driving this entire thing. So if it's Brian Schottenheimer, it'll be because Jerry wants Brian Schottenheimer, and that's not a very good thing.
Let me throw a name out to you. I think now Robert Saleh is the best candidate on the market. I thought Vrabel was initially. Then I thought it was McCarthy, Ben, Pete. I think Saleh now, to me, has leverage with the Saints and the Cowboys. You're getting a text right now. Is that anything we should know?
This is directly related to the Jets GM search, but I think we have a few minutes. So
okay.
We'll come back to that.
All right. Robert Saleh.
Yeah, well, speaking of Jets, I believe wholeheartedly that Robert Saleh would have been the guy in Jacksonville had the Liam Coen Hail Mary not worked. I believe that. And so now that they go with Liam Coen, Robert Saleh, I think, is most likely, very likely, going to go back to San Francisco, become the defensive coordinator. But we just talked about Dallas. This is why Dallas hasn't been relevant in 3 decades. If you're Dallas, why aren't you talking to Robert Saleh right now? This is a guy who is very well respected.
I mean, the minute he left New York,
yes,
the franchise overboard.
They were 2-3 on the verge of potentially first place, and they made him the scapegoat, and look what happened. They fell apart the rest of the season. Now, I'm not saying Robert Saleh is a godsend of a head coach, but he is a culture defensive guy.
Niners want him back.
The Niners desperately want him back. And really, a lot of teams really like Robert Saleh. It's why, and this surprised me, he was in the mix in 3 different organizations for a potential head coaching job. And a lot of people, including myself, did not believe he'd be in this cycle. That says a lot about how he's viewed throughout the league. So if you're Dallas, I don't understand, quite frankly, why you're not pursuing a Robert Saleh. And it really goes to speak to the ineptitude of Jerry Jones and the organization. But I do believe, again, he would have been in Jacksonville if it wasn't for Liam Coen, and I now believe he will be back in San Francisco as the DC, which probably means in a year he'll be in the head coaching cycle again.
Liam Coen, he's been around for a long time, 15 years, gets the Jaguars job. There's a lot of hurt feelings in Tampa, but it is coordinator to head coach. It's just going to happen. That's the reality. They circled back. Trevor Lawrence finally gets his guy.
Yeah. So there's a lot of factors here. I don't want to go too much into the weeds on this, but basically what happened was Liam Coen interview with the Jags went very well. The next day he alerts Jacksonville, you know what? I appreciate the opportunity, but I want to remain in Tampa Bay over the next couple of days. I love Baker Mayfield, love Todd Bowles. The Bucs make him one of the highest paid coordinators in the league, $4.5 million. Everybody's happy. It's copacetic. Then you fast forward 24 hours. The Jags fired Trent Baalke, and now all of a sudden they start bombarding Liam Coen. Hey, would you be interested now that Trent's out? What can we do to get you in the building? Give us another chance. As it was described to me, they were going to make Liam Coen say no, not once, but twice.
Okay.
So they bring Liam Coen secretly.
That happens, by the way, in college a lot.
Absolutely. They bring Liam Coen secretly into Jacksonville. Nobody knows what's going on. And they meet with him basically all day, and Shad Khan becomes very enamored, blown away. And as it was described to me, and I reported this last night, they were not going to let Liam Coen lead the building. That's how well it went. And you asked me, why not Trent Baalke? What's the big issue there? The big issue is Trent Baalke is a survivor. He survived Jim Harbaugh, Jim Tomsula, Doug Peterson, Urban Meyer. Now you start to think, if I'm Liam Coen, why would I go to Jacksonville with Trent Baalke? Talk about not having alignment with the GM. It doesn't make any sense. And the other part, this is important to know, Colin. It's ironic that it's from an OC from the Bucs to the Jags, because if you rewind the clock 3 years, Byron Leftwich was in a very similar position. The Jags wanted him. He ended up turning it down because he did not want to be in an organization that wasn't healthy, right? It's not guaranteed if you're Liam Coen, just like it wasn't with your Byron Leftwich, that you're going to have an opportunity a year later.
Yeah, I think people get that. It's a head coaching job with Trevor Lawrence.
Absolutely. And if you're Byron Leftwich, you have not been in the league now for 3 years. You never got that shot. There's only 30-plus jobs, 32 jobs in the world. And I know how frustrated Bucs fans are with Liam Coen. But you have to understand, this is an opportunity for him to be a head coach. And now instead of making $4.5 million, I've been told he's going to make Ben Johnson money, which is mid-teens.
Yeah.
It's a multi-year deal. How
many Buck fans would turn down 3 times the job offer? Get over it.
And the power. And Trevor Lawrence, who,
it's easy.
Colin, I know he hasn't been perfect, but this is a guy with immense talent. So there's a lot of unbelievable factors here with that job.
I worry about the Detroit Lions losing both coordinators, and I hear they'd like to fill those positions from within. Watch out.
the two names that I would watch for are Scotty Montgomery as the OC potentially, and Calvin Shepard, linebacker coach, as the DC. But they're going to have a search. The difference here, go ahead. You going to say something?
That's upgrading within the staff worries me.
It does. The difference here, and this is the difference between Dallas and Jerry Jones to Detroit with Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. They've been preparing for this for a year. They already have a lot of candidates, obviously within, but also outside to potentially bring in. So they're ahead of the game. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be able to replace Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn, because you can't. But I think Detroit, with that roster, is viewed as a great opportunity to come in, work for Dan, be really good right away, and then you could jumpstart your career potentially as a head coach, as we've seen with Aaron and Ben. I still think with that division, Detroit has to be the favorite next year.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think I'll have to examine my data and analytics.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I said this yesterday. We are seeing the fall of an American institution. If it is Brian Schottenheimer,
yeah,
I think it's interesting. Would Jerry give him a 2-year deal?
Mm-hmm.
You got to prove it. 2-year deal, which, by the way, you'll build a horrible staff.
Yeah.
Is there a chance Saleh gets Dallas?
No, I don't think Saleh. I think Kellen Moore would be the other guy. I think Kellen Moore.
But you'd have to wait. You may have to wait 3 weeks.
You'd have to wait, absolutely. And if you're Kellen Moore, are you looking at Dallas? I know it's a head coaching job, but you have a great thing going on with Philly right now. And there's going to be, I would imagine, I know it's not a guarantee, we just said, but there will be more opportunities for you.
Of course.
So the reason Jerry would love a Brian Schottenheimer or a Kellen Moore for that matter is, Kellen Moore's been in the organization. Kellen Moore's a young guy. He hasn't been super established. Brian Schottenheimer will acquiesce to him. Jerry wants full control, and that's why he's operating right now as a lone wolf. I keep using that term because it's very important to understand. This is not a collaborative approach. This is not a Detroit or a Jets even looking for a new system. This is Jerry Jones saying, my way or the highway, and that's why it's probably going to be Brian Schottenheimer. You love that.
I think it is. I think it is. Shows you how detached the Cowboys have become the Lakers. If LeBron didn't come to L.A., they would be this. Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.